Welcome to Dust to Grace, where gumption meets grace and real life gets lived out loud. I am so glad you're here. You know that feeling right around the second week of August when the air hasn't even cooled off yet, but something in your chest already knows that little pit in your stomach. I still get it every single year. I am a middle-aged woman. My boys are men, 31 and 32 years old. When I walk into a store in August, it still gets me. There they are, in the bright primary colors, the first back-to-school supplies. My stomach does a flip-flop, just like it did when I was a kid in school. Something in me still drops a little, like I want to reach out and grab time by the collar and say, not yet, just a few more days. What is it about that subconscious training that still gives me that same back-to-school response? What is it about this remembering through the subconscious? How it makes me feel instead of being in the present, instead of being excited for what is really happening for the kids and the fact that they will have a great opportunity to learn and grow each new school year. That quiet, stubborn something that keeps you getting up, keeps you hoping, keeps you believing that there's still something good on the other side of this school season. I know that feeling. And I believe it has a name. It is called grace. Last time I shared about how my boys have not only grown up in my household, but they've grown me in very specific and subtle ways as well. That grace just didn't happen. It started years ago in a round pen with my husband and a horse. Please allow me to share how horses have taught me so many life lessons about responding instead of reacting. Now, you've probably heard that horses react in one of three ways: fight, flight, or freeze. They lack the full frontal lobe that humans have, so reacting in one of these three moves comes very natural to them. I mimicked the horses often before I learned about brain health and the function of the frontal lobe. All of my life, the school supplies section in the front of a store in August has given me the same stomach flip-flop. Just recently, I felt it again, but this time I decided to sit with the feeling and align with it. And these three personal horse stories came to my mind as I was processing that school supply flip-flop. I have three real-life, real-lived horse stories to help explain what has been taught to me. This first one, my husband and I were starting a young colt, a mare, a couple of years old. Plenty of try in her, but still green, still figuring out what people even wanted from her. We started her the way we started most of them back then, as a husband and wife team out in the round pen on a lunge line. My husband held that lunge line while I got up on her back, just so she could learn to carry weight, with him keeping her connected to him and trusting him the whole time. Her safety net, while she figured out what was going on. Now, the first couple of times she did great, better than great, but that's because she didn't really know yet what we were asking of her. Then we had some friends come over, watching us show off how we were starting this horse. And I remember thinking, she's got this now. And I relaxed just a little. That was the moment she finally understood exactly what we were asking her, and she didn't want any part of it. That horse went to bucking, my rear went in the air, my arms went to flying everywhere. I did everything in my power to stay on that horse. I grabbed the saddle horn with both hands and held on for dear life. No grace, no form, nothing I'd put into a training video anyway, just holding on. And somehow, only by God's grace, I stayed on. I rode her through it. The folks who had been watching went quiet, and honestly, they might have been a little bit impressed. I hadn't ended up on the ground in a ball anyway. We went inside. I had supper waiting. We sat down, ate a good meal, and laughed about how close I came to eating dirt in front of the company. And that horse, she got better after that. Not worse, but better. That's fight. When the fear finally caught up with her, she didn't run from it, and she didn't shut down. She came up swinging right there in front of everybody. And so did I. I just held on tighter instead of letting go. Now, the second one happened later, once she was further along. I took her out for her first real ride out in the open pasture. Just her and me, and open ground for the first time. That's a different kind of trust test for a young horse. No walls, no fence lines, right there to hem her in. Just space and whatever she decided to do with it. Wouldn't you know it, here comes the neighbor's pickup, driving up right while we were out in that open pasture. And that horse spooked because as far as she was concerned, I was letting that truck come straight at her. Something broke in her right then. If I was going to let something come at her like that, she couldn't trust me to keep her safe anymore. And she decided right there she was going to get rid of me one way or another. I could feel that certainty in her. There wasn't a version of the next few seconds where she calmed back down and decided to keep me. So instead of fighting for trust, that was already gone, I made my own call. I bailed off on purpose so I could choose how I landed, but first, instead of waiting around to find out what she had planned for me. That's flight. She didn't stick around to test it or fight it out. The instant she stopped trusting me, she was done. Plain and simple. And this time, so was I, in my own way. I stopped trying to hold on to something that was already gone, and I surrendered to the safer thing instead of the prideful thing. Now, the third story didn't happen with just one horse. It happened with a whole bunch of them, and it happened at night. We live out in farm country, and if you've ever tried to keep horses in with not quite enough fences, you already know where this one is going. One winter night, my son was out feeding horses after dark, and somehow, some way, the horses slipped right out of the pen. I was already in bed. Next thing I know, here's my son at the door. Mom, I need your help. I need your help now. The horses are gone. So out I go, nightgown. I pulled on some sweatpants, flashlight in hand, trying to figure out where in the world you'd even start looking for loose horses in the dark. Thank goodness for a full moon that night. We finally spotted them, and they saw us coming, and they took off running circles around us out in the open field. They did not want to go back in that pen. I tried heading them off with my Jeep. My son was out there on foot, and I'd get them turned towards the open field, and the way they went, and my son was yelling at me, "Mom, whose side are you on anyway? The horse's side or mine?" And I hollered back that at the present time I was the best help he had, because I didn't see anyone in line to take this job off my hands, but really I had no idea how to help this situation. I really didn't. Those horses were not the least bit scared of us. They knew exactly what we wanted, and for a good while, they wanted to keep the game going more than they wanted to cooperate, teasing us, holding the upper hand because they could. But horses get tired, same as us. And somehow out there, under that full moon, that game stopped being fun for them. I don't think it was fear that finally stopped them. Nothing about that whole night said scared to me. It was something closer to a decision. They had their run, and now they wanted supper more than they wanted the open field. One by one, they slowed down and stopped, and they let us walk them home. That's the third one, and it took me the longest to understand because it doesn't fit fight or flight at all. It looks like it should be freeze, everything just stops, but it isn't a freeze fear. Nothing shut down out there. It was a freeze of decision. They chose to stop, the same way you or I might finally lay down a fight we've been having with ourselves, with something we actually want, like supper, rest, home. It outweighs whatever we thought we were holding out for. Now, the amygdala in our brain is actually the part of the brain that reacts to danger. It flags it and jumps to conclusions like a horse going into a buck. Sometimes there's no warning when it's going to fire. If we let the brain just react, it will probably use the amygdala first and overreact. But since I've learned about brain health, I have a choice. I can let my amygdala take the reins and react, or I can give the reins to my frontal lobe and respond calmly and strategically. But the quick wisdom of the frontal lobe is quietly waiting to be asked to respond to a situation. As the trainer of my mind, I have the ability to ask my amygdala to step back and allow the frontal lobe to look at the problem instead. Almost like two students in a classroom. The amygdala is the one waving her arm, anxious to answer, out of turn. And the frontal lobe is the student with the hand straight up, not waving, patiently waiting to be asked. Maybe this is when the frontal lobe needs to be asked to answer the question. I find myself becoming a better listener now that I know I can hand the reins to my frontal lobe. Now, just this weekend, I booked a reservation to eat out, and it was cheap, really cheap. I like to go cheap. My husband told me I can no longer book food reservations because I never could and never will be able to pick a good restaurant. We always end up somewhere he'd rather not eat. And instead of my normal reaction of being offended, I had to admit he was right. He can choose the restaurants from now on. Now that I've learned I can give the reins to my frontal lobe, it empowers me to stop, look around, and feel why my stomach is flipping inside out. Then I let my frontal lobe recognize what's real and calm the waving, squirming amygdala to stop and see what's really happening and step forward, empowered with true knowledge. And that's the piece I want to hand you. If you've got a kid walking back into the classroom soon, or if you're the one feeling the same old flip-flop, watching them grow, my life has always had horses and animals in it. My riding has always started with catching the horse in the pasture. Sometimes we've had to chase the horses into a smaller pen to catch them, especially if they're in a group and want to play and run away. But the one thing that has always brought me joy is the bond between me and a horse. When I could take a bucket of grain, look the horse in the eye, and she would willingly come in to be caught. That relationship I had with a horse when I was very small has carried me all of my life. It helped me be steady even when my boys stepped onto the school bus on the first day of kindergarten. I will never forget how quiet it was after that bus pulled out. But the real piece here is this. We will always have a firing amygdala. The choice is whether we step back, use the frontal lobe, and empower someone to take an independent step onto that school bus, into that classroom, wherever it is. That step brings empowerment to both the student and to you. And I hope you have a great school year this year. So as Mondays become more routine and school goes into full swing, I hope you can put aside the 3 F's: fight, flight, or freeze. Instead, embrace the change. Check in with the frontal lobe. Let the amygdala relax and enjoy every new day with all the routine intact. Hope, breathe, lean, believe, and grow. You're not behind. You're not broken. You're one breath away from the life Grace has for you. Have a great day.